What's new on DJI OM5? In this channel, we talk about technology, gadget, marketing, and whatever we want. So let's get started. A supercharged selfie stick for vloggers. While the DJI OM4 was more of the same when compared to the Osmo Mobile 3, the OM5 is a totally different direction for the series. It packs a smaller battery and no power bank functionality in favor of a much more refined, compact design, and some new selfie stick functionality. Interestingly, it's less intuitive than the OM4. Given the fact it extends, you need to be a bit more hands-on to get the most out of it, and things can get fiddly. That said, it also does more from a shooting point of view, and is in turn, a fantastic addition to the line, even if it isn't a direct replacement for its predecessor. The DJI OM5 follows on from the 5-star OM4 with a slick new design and a built-in extension rod, giving the well-respected smartphone gimbal line full-blown selfie stick functionality. And that's all despite the fact it's smaller and lighter than any of its predecessors. Surely there's a catch. Indeed, it's got a smaller battery, no power bank functionality, and it's a tad fiddlier. Still, it extends, which will be a crucial feature for many. The first eye-catching aspect of the OM5 is its look and feel. If the Osmo Mobile 3 and DJI OM4 look like angry Autobots, the DJI OM5 looks like it was heavily inspired by a pair of Bang & Olufsen headphones. Available in sunset white and Athens gray, even the colors look more luxurious than last year's industrial gray options. Like the OM4, DJI's latest iteration sports a magnetic clamp that lives on your smartphone, then latches onto the OM5 for dear life when set near it thanks to a powerful magnet. If you're big on vlogging, you can also pick up a new Fill Light phone clamp, $59/£42/79 Australian dollars, which sports two LED strip lights for some front camera video flattery. Versatile, even on larger phones like the iPhone 12 Pro Max and Motorola Edge 20 Pro, the clamp fits comfortably, even if you've got a case on your phone. Unfold the OM5, and DJI brings back its 3-axis stabilization from previous generation gimbals. You can use the OM5 out of the box with your phone's native camera app. However, once you download the DJI Mimo app, you'll be treated to a new shot guides feature, which walks you through capturing stylized clips. This isn't too mind-blowing in practice for seasoned gimbal users, but is fun for newbies. That said, there's also a new improved Active Track 4.0 which works great and is clearly an improvement over past generations, and some new panorama photo enhancements. DJI's also brought back all the things that made last year's OM4 pop, including gesture control, dynamic zoom, think the dolly zoom vertigo effect in JAWS, time-lapse, motion-lapse, hyperlapse, spin-shot gimbal movement, and story mode templates. Costing $159/£139, 239 Australian dollars, the DJI OM5 ships with a magnetic clamp, tripod, power cable, wrist strap and storage pouch. You'll have to buy the Fill Light phone clamp separately for $59, £42/79 Australian dollars if you want to get your flattering selfie game on with your OM5. All things said and done, it's a great addition to the line, but it's not necessarily the best choice for everyone. The DJI OM4 will remain on sale, but won't be manufactured anymore, so could be worth picking up if you don't need the extending arm. But the OM5 sits alongside it for anyone who needs a turbocharged, gimbal-stabilized selfie stick, and in that role, it's the best option around. The DJI OM5 is like a love child of the DJI OM4 and GN SmoothX. For anyone whose radar didn't blip when the SmoothX launched, it's a gimbal and selfie stick in one, aimed at vloggers. While the DJI Osmo Mobile 3 and OM4 are 3-axis gimbals, the SmoothX is just 2-axis, making it fun, but less powerful. This means, the DJI OM5 could be the most powerful gimbal/selfie stick mashup around with its superior stabilization. That said, the mechanics of the OM5 are similar to those GN's gimbal insofar as you unfurl the folded-up gimbal, then extend the arm quite clumsily to achieve some distance between your moneymaker and smartphone. The first few times you use anything that folds, clicks into place, and twists as it transforms, it's a clumsy fumble, but the DJI OM5 became a relatively elegant solution to whip out after a few folds and unfolds. It's also noticeably small and lightweight. It's the actual stick extension that requires a bit of elbow grease and manual positioning. The OM5 weighs around 100 grams less than last year's OM4 at 290 grams, despite the addition of the selfie stick arm. It extends by up to 21.5 centimeters, so while far from the longest selfie stick around, it's a wonder DJI managed to shave off so much weight. To be fair, a lot of that streamlining can be explained away by the smaller battery, which we'll come on to later. The gimbal also doesn't act as a USB, a smartphone charger, which its predecessor did, so there are fewer ports too. Practically speaking, we'd say the fewer ports on the new OM5 make sense, and help the series reach a new level of design excellence, even if the hardcore geek in us is sad to see some handy functions like reverse charging removed from the line. If past generation DJI OMs and Osmo mobiles have looked like computer game props straight out of Ready Player One, the OM5 shakes things up, going in a much more organic direction. Its curves are soft, its shape's more natural than industrial, and one friend even joked it looks like an intimate aid. Folded up, the OM5 fits in a large pocket relatively easily, and poses no problem when sliding it into a backpack or a handbag. To unfold it, you simply rotate one portion, then flip another and you're done. The magnetic grip lives on your phone, and adheres to the gimbal in a snap very securely. The base of the gimbal houses a standard 1/4 inch tripod thread. On the back of the gimbal is a joystick, a record and a rotate button. The rotate button can be pressed once to switch between front and rear cameras, and double pressed to flip from landscape to portrait orientation. To the left of the main button interface is a zoom slider, which engages digital zoom through the DJI Mimo app, and a power button above it, which switches between photo and video shooting with a single press. On the front of the gimbal is a trigger that can reset the gimbal position, and finally, there's a USB-C port for charging the gimbal. As for the selfie stick feature, this is the most manual, clunky part of the OM5 experience. To activate it, you simply yank the gimbal head away from the joystick portion and extend to your heart's desire, up to 21.5 centimeters. To really get the most from it, you should then pivot the head to angle you before you hit record, and as much as it can be a bit stiff to get in place, once set up, it all feels relatively secure. You could certainly argue that the OM4 is a better gimbal than the OM5. While it doesn't have the mega fancy extending arm, what it does do is operate as a more versatile gimbal when it isn't extended. What do we mean? The DJI OM5 is made to be used both when it's in selfie stick mode and traditional gimbal mode. It therefore needs to be able to rotate differently to a gimbal that is always held at hand level. For traditionalists who don't see themselves living their best selfie stick life, there's very little reason to go for the OM5 over the 4 if pure performance is what you're after. The gimbal undeniably does a great job of keeping footage nice and steady. Like the OM4, it's a 3-axis system, so we'll pan, roll and tilt to compensate for hand movement. While the pan and tilt range are similar across last year's DJI gimbal, this year's, it's the roll that's different, with the DJI OM4 rolling through -127.05 degrees to 208.95 degrees, and the OM5 rolling through -136.7 degrees to 198 degrees. While both offer the same amount of movement, the OM4 benefits from greater upward-facing range, while the OM5 benefits from greater downward-facing range. In other words, if you really want to get the most from the OM5, firing up active tracking and using it as a makeshift camera person while it's on a tripod, you can't shy away from extending the arm, which might not always feel natural to do. If you don't, you will be facing inferior useful reach when compared to the OM4. Speaking of rotation, when you're using the joystick and are rotating your mounted smartphone, there's a noticeable judder, especially if you have a slightly larger device. We also found the out-of-the-box rotation to be pretty quick for our tastes. Slowing it in the DJI Mimo app both chilled out the erratic spins, and got rid of the judder. As for the gimbal's battery life, the OM5 is powered by a 1,000 mAh cell, which is significantly smaller than that of the OM4, which was 2,460 mAh. It therefore lasts around half the time. That's sad, but with around 6 hours of life from a single charge, we're not too upset. 6 hours of use time is plenty for a gimbal, and the fact it isn't a portable power bank will mean that battery isn't going to be shared with other devices. If you really want to get the most from the DJI OM5, you'll need to fire up the DJI Mimo app. Sure, you can use your smartphone's native camera, but to engage with the on-body OM5 controls, record, zoom etc., a load of shooting modes, and access object tracking, DJI's app is your portal. Once you download it from the App Store or Play Store, you'll be treated to quick pairing, once the OM5 is fired up, and a home interface that gives you info about other DJI products. As for modes, the OM5 introduces a new shot guides feature, which walks you through capturing stylized clips. This isn't too mind-blowing in practice for seasoned gimbal users, though can be handy for inspiration and is fun for newbies. The feature's UI plays back a video in a floating window as you shoot that helps you position the gimbal just right, move it at the appropriate speed, and level up your clip capture. There's also a new improved Active Track 4.0 that works great and is clearly an improvement over past generations. Firing it up couldn't be simpler. Just drag a frame around the object you want to follow, and the OM5 will keep it in frame beautifully. This works great when the gimbal is rested on a surface with its tripod attachment, and the arm is fully extended. This goes back to our comment about rotation. Without extending the arm, the gimbal will struggle to angle up to face you, especially when on a low surface when tracking. DJI has also brought back all the things that made last year's OM4 pop, including gesture control, dynamic zoom, think the dolly zoom vertigo effect in JAWS, time-lapse, motion lapse, hyperlapse, panoramas, spin shot gimbal movement, and story mode templates.